lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Slick James Johnson, Physics Warrior, Paul, Flatten Earth, Eric, Chris, Chocolate Sane, and Arwin. Very good to have you all.
Thank you, Nathan. Greetings all.
Hello.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello, one and all. Let's rattle through a bit of housekeeping. Any signs of curvature?
No.
Nope.
Yet.
No sign.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
On my bicycle. Not here.
What about scientific evidence of gravity? Any signs of that?
Nope.
Nope.
Those cool stories.
Don't start me on about gravity. I just had a really annoying dragging debate with Jessiconda on my early bird about it again.
God bless you, Arwin.
Was there any scientific evidence of gravity offered during the discussion, Arwin?
No, just the assumption of it. And he even pushed me as far as to make me explain how relative density works out in certain aberrations, the gravity aberrations. And I actually did it on the spot, and he still said, yeah, but no, I'm still going to go with gravity. It's just terrible.
Anything beyond religious fundamentalist belief juxtaposed with relative density? Any actual scientific evidence of gravity, though? Anybody on the panel?
No.
Okie dokie. Moving on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No,
Light
there is
in the
no
sky.
distance to the sun.
No way. Somewhere in the sky.
No? Right. Any evidence that gas pressure can be maintained without the necessary antecedent of a container for all those crazy believers that we have a sky vacuum, otherwise known as outer space? Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Never, ever, ever.
Nope.
No evidence.
What about any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Of course.
Nothing like that,
No.
nope. We've only dug 8 miles into the Earth, and that's as far as we know.
I heard Arwin's voice saying, of course. Was that just me hallucinating?
Yes.
Was me hallucinating, or it was you saying, yes, of course, we have evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Which one was it?
Both.
Keeping me on tenterhooks here, Arwin. Look, I'm really keen to have
You
some
are
evidence.
hallucinating the truth. I was just joking.
Oh, damn you. I was, as always, holding out so much hope for the evidence of this molten iron core that we're supposed to have. Damn you, Arwin. Damn you. You got my hopes up. What about the R value?
I still have to figure out, like, how does freaking lava even work, you know? how deep does that go? What is that? What is any of it? But yeah, so far no actual indications of a molten layer, even if you take away the presupposition of the globe. So yeah,
Even in their rhetoric,
there's still a lot to discover.
The lava's got nothing to do
About
with the
what's
molten
down
iron
there.
core, though, is it? These two are very different things. So my understanding was that in their rhetoric, the plate tectonics and the friction that it causes can cause like lava to be created at a fairly shallow depth compared to the molten iron core. That's their rhetoric, but I don't think it's like a tunnel to the center of the Earth carrying lava. I don't think that's how it works, and even in their nonsense.
I don't know. Well, how about, for example, the whole Yellowstone Park super volcano, supposedly? What is there really something underneath there that is like is something from deep down? What is that? You know, so many of these things are super remote, and you just hear all these speculations and these claims. But what is really? Just
Truly, I have no idea. You know, you're asking the wrong question.
If you're using a volcano as the example and say that's the only way lava comes out, they're wrong, because if it's not coming out that hole, it's coming out through cracks underneath the ocean or underground, and you've got hot springs. That doesn't prove a molten iron core.
So what about the...
Yeah, it's pretty close to the surface.
Absolutely, but we don't even know what is actually down there, really. That's
no, we have no idea.
Point.
None. You're right. Go on, Eric. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just saying, and you know, everything you guys were talking about is pretty close to the surface. So, I mean, we don't really know what goes that far down. You know?
I completely agree. We're very much, you know, a mile apart from talking about. You know, I hate to use those sorts of terms. We're many, many, many miles apart from talking about the molten iron core when we talk about volcanoes. But in any event, any evidence of the presupposition itself, the radius value?
Nope. Only in math.
Any more for any more? Because that concludes the housekeeping. If not, well, thank you very much. That can go. Oh, one more. Go on. Got a taker. Have we? Go on,
No. Sorry, I jumped in too soon. I was going to say I have a question about R. Because I'm not. Maybe there's some geometry thing I don't get, but is R more important than, say, diameter or circumference?
It's a derived value anyway, so it's derived from the circle that the sun would take over the equator, and then the presupposition being the spherical bit. So the derived radius from that, the presupposition being, well, it's obviously traversing the outside edge of a sphere, and we're moving around it, and that gives us a spherical radius value, i.e. r. So the one is derived from the other in the first instance. The presupposition bit isn't necessarily r if you were to accurately describe how you acquired it. It's more the spherical presupposition that is the concern, right? Are we on a sphere? Not does the sun circle around the equator? And what is the equator? Is it the outside edge of a sphere? Well, that's what the presupposition entails. See what I mean?
Right, but I'm saying, could you just as easily ask if there's evidence, say, for circumference value?
Yeah, and they could give you that.
But you're saying based on the same faulty logic that they give you R.
Yeah, they derive it from the sun's path, and then the presupposition is that it's traversing the outside edge of the sphere, and that's what your sphere equator is, right? It's not just a flat plane with that arbitrary point on the ground, because it's just a conceptual point where the sun will travel across from your perspective. Well, the sun travels above your head there, it travels above your head on any point of the equator. I've been to the equator. The sun doesn't do anything much different to it does here in England. You know, it's still going above your head and rising and setting. So it's the presupposition that's the concern, the presupposition being the sphere bit. So when we ask for R, it's the presupposition of a spherical radius.
Well, didn't the whole thing start because someone thought that the circle was the perfect shape, and then they presupposed that, and then they had to do the two sticks 2,000 years ago with the shadows, and then they said it's 24,901 miles in circumference, and then you get the 8 inches per mile squared from that. It all came from the presupposition that the circle is a perfect shape, but not from observed phenomenon that the Earth was a ball.
Well, no, they presupposed, when they did that measurement, they presupposed that the Earth was a sphere, and the presupposition originally came from Aristarchus. So he observes a shadow across the moon, and the curved shadow he presupposes is caused, there's that word again, by a sphere Earth obscuring the light from the sun, causing the shadow on the moon. So that's where the presupposition...
So what did he do when it was a half moon? It was a straight line.
That's not important. I'm just telling you the historic bullshit. Just accept the historic bullshit for what it is.
Well, I had a guy here, and I looked at him. And I said, "Look at the moon. The sun was up on my property, and the moon was there." And I said, "Look at the moon. Well, you see the angle of the sun on the horizon? It was just peeking up, daybreak." And he looked at the moon, and he looked at the shadow, and he says, "That's impossible." I said, "I know, because they got it all wrong, don't they?" That's the relationship of the sun supposedly shining its light on the moon, not the Earth in the way. And yet, at the beginning, it was the Earth in the way, except when it was a half moon, because then it's a straight line down the moon. So it can't be the Earth's shadow. It has to be the way the sun is hitting it, if the sun light is bouncing off the moon, which I don't believe.
So was that conversation that we were having over now and we've moved on, or what happened with that?
I'd like to keep it going, because Flat Earth said DNA is not a code, and here our legal system is using it over fingerprints to identify individuals even more accurately. And when DNA was discovered by, what's the name, Watson and Crick, it was definitely a code. It's a blueprint. It's a set of design that makes a yellow flower, and not a blue flower. Blue flower has code for a blue flower. A yellow flower has code for a yellow flower. And the only way something could be anything different is to mess with the genetics and add a new code. And that ain't happening unless it's happening from an outside force. Like, I can buy genetically modified lettuce seeds that have been genetically modified to have a smaller stem, so that whoever buys my lettuce gets more leaf and less stem. But it took an outside force to change the genetics, the code, the information. It takes intelligence to put information. It's not self-created. There's no such thing as self-creation. It's self-existing.
I think this is where it's kind of getting confused, because he's not saying anything about self-existing. What Alan is saying is that what is has always existed. It was never created. It was always there. And it kind of answers a lot of nagging questions, like the idea that energy can't be created or destroyed. Well, then that would make perfect sense in something that always existed.
Well, I think you have two ways to go here. You either assign the credit to a self-existing creator who made everything, as is, or you assign that self-existence to a impersonal force. Choose your path.
Well, the problem is this self-existing. Where are you getting self from?
Well, for example, in order for cause and effect to work, you have to go back to the initial cause of everything and say, what caused the cause? That's the one that your brain starts working on. So everything that is made is an effect. So that everything has a cause. So what was the first cause? And then you have to say, then you have to say, who made that cause? And then, so you can go into an eternal regress until you come to a place where you say, all right, if there was a self-existence and a creator, that explains everything perfectly. in harmony. Or you could say, I don't believe in a creator. I don't believe in anything that might be formed into a religion. I believe the earth was self-existing. That's fine. Go
Right.
ahead.
I, I think I understand what you're saying, except for when you keep using this word self, because this word self is not really necessary to the conversation.
Well, it is if you're trying to define an intelligence as a being vastly
Right,
superior to the things that this being is making.
right. But what if you're not doing that?
That's your choice. I give you, look, I'm not God. I'm not judging anybody. I'm saying I believe in a creator who is self existing that made everything. And others want to say, well, I agree with everything you say, except I'm not going to assign it to a creator that one day may judge me. I'm going to say the universe created everything. Fine. Go ahead.
Well, and that's not really what he's saying. He's not saying that the universe created everything. What he's saying is that what exists has always existed. It didn't have a beginning or an end because energy, hold on, because energy can't be created or destroyed. See, that answers way more questions than the singularity or the intelligent design argument.
Except when the computer simulation example, to the best of our understanding, the game that we're in is within the framework that we're in. Outside of us is the self-existing creator, is what I believe. I'm not pushing that on anybody. I just believe that because it makes the most sense to me. Now, if someone wants to say all the other stuff and attribute how energy works and everything else, go ahead. I mean,
but you can keep going back. You can keep asking questions like who created God. Like, I think the idea that things always existed makes more sense.
But that's why I'm using self-existence, because that answers who created God. Nobody. He self-existed. That's the whole point.
Okay.
That's the whole point, because you can't have a self-created God, because then who made him?
Yeah.
But the thing is,
it's the rules of logic, cause and effect, and the logic.
it just sounds like from what you're saying that you created God.
No. Why? How can I create God when I'm created? I'm an effect.
No, my point is you're the one that's bringing God into the conversation, so you're creating him in that sense.
Oh, I see what you're saying. All right. Well, let me answer that. I see order. I don't see chaos. I see cosmos. I see how life works. I see how plant life works. I attribute a design to a designer. That's how I see it. Logic.
Right, but the only difference that's being said is that rather than all of that was created, all he is saying is that always existed. That's the only difference. You're saying that it was, hold on, you're saying that it was created at some point in time by a creator. And what Alan is saying is there's no need for a creator because it existed always.
And I said, that's fine for Alan. Let him go to his grave with that. I'm going to my grave knowing there was a creator. Who's saying he can't believe what he wants to believe?
I kind of agree with both of you, though, because I do believe that there is a creator, but I don't think he created himself, or I think he is self-existent, but he also created. I think that those two things can be true at the same time.
Well, he created everything that's anything, but he was self-existing. I agree with you there.
But when you ask the tough question of energy cannot be created or destroyed, always existed answers that problem. It also answers the chicken and egg problem.
Yeah, no, it does not at all.
Sure it does.
No, everything's been here forever doesn't answer in a single question.
In other words, if you have if you go by everything had a beginning, that's when you have the chicken and egg problem. Well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? But when you go with the always existed, the chicken and egg problem doesn't come up.
But we're not self-existing.
You can't prove eternity.
But do you understand what I just said there?
Yes, I did. But here's the problem. You're ascribing self-existence to things that are effects.
You keep saying self. That's where you're having difficulty, because I never said self. I said always existed.
Okay, you keep ascribing always existing to things that are created that are effects. I don't ascribe existing to effects or always existing to effects. Effects have a beginning. They have a
Well,
code. They have a
I
design.
think I think elements and the basic uh, building blocks of life and things have always existed, but I don't trees and things like that, animals. Those are things that I think have been formed from an intelligent being, by an intelligent being.
Imagine what you're saying always existed. In what form? How long? There is no long because there is no time. If we dug into this earth, we would find so many more things if earth always existed.
Okay, what's your point?
My point is there's a beginning to all creation.
Right, but where are you getting that from?
Logic.
So
Logic.
you're basically just taking and you're owning the word logic and you're applying this to that word.
No, I'm applying logic to how I observe life. Like when I was a young child, I did have those questions. Who made this? Where did this come from? How did we get here? What happens after death? Because I'm in life, I'm born, so I could think now. I couldn't think before I was born. All of these were penetrating questions to me as a young child. And so I think everybody has one way or another these thoughts in their life. So you want to say, okay, what can I see evidentiary that tells me a little bit about how I got here or who I am, or is there anything after death? These are good questions. And so as I was asking those questions, I'm observing life. I'm watching children get born. I'm watching grandparents die. I'm watching my dogs die. I get a new dog, that dog dies. I'm seeing the cycle of life. I'm seeing everything. I'm trying to get some answer to this. Okay? And so when you start going through the scientific side or the medical or biology, and you realize that everything has a code and everything is what it is because of a code, you say there must be a designer for this design. And it makes you seek a creator. For me, that's what I did. If someone wants to seek an impersonal force, or it's always been, have at it. I'm not your judge.
So I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you need a creator, so you created one.
No, I didn't create a creator. Logically saw that there was one because of the design of the things that are made. Me, my plants, everything has a code. Who put the code in?
Right.
Who put the information in? Takes intelligence.
But what if everything always existed?
Who put it in?
Shout out to my warped mind for the super chat. Thank you very much indeed for your support. Really appreciate it.
See,
I'm not against it always. I'm with you. No, I'm with you. I get it. But I'm saying the code is a design. It's always existed. Who put it in? That's my question to you.
Right. But see, when you ask a question, if it always existed, who put it in? See, that's kind of a contradictory question. You're answering two questions that contradict each other, and you're forming them into one question.
But that's what you're saying. I'm saying none of it existed. It was a self-existing God who existed, and he made it, and there was a beginning. That's what I'm saying. Right. And you're saying it always existed.
Right, exactly. See, I understand what you're saying, but what you're saying involves a creator. Hold on. Always existed does not involve a creator because everything always existed. So it was never created. It was always there, eliminating a creator.
If you want to believe that fairy tale,
no, I'm not saying, listen, I'm not talking about belief. We're just talking about ideas.
We know by logic you don't always exist, not in this world. I read you that beautiful statement. Effects are caused. We don't live in the world of self-existence.
But do you get to claim the word logic for yourself? Can anybody else use logic, or is that only you that can use logic?
I never said that. I'm saying, I said the way I see logic, the way I use logic. You use logic the way you want to use logic.
Okay, I understand.
No, all right, I'm not forcing this on anybody.
No, I'm saying I understand. So, we can close the conversation because I get your point.
I read that statement. If we live in a world where there are no effects, then there would be no causes. Well, and if we live in a world where there are no causes, then there would be no effects. But if we live in a world where there are effects, then there must also be causes. Well, that's the world I live in. The only world which there are no effects, now here's the one. The only world which there are no effects and no causes would be a world where everything is self-existing. Think on that. That's a big one.
Now think on this. My world is everything always existed.
I respect that belief. I just don't agree with it.
Hold on. I'm not saying it's a belief. I'm just saying, like, I'm doing the same thing that you did. In other words, you stated your case, and all I'm doing is I'm stating my case.
And I'm saying I respect you in that that's how you perceive life to be.
Right. So that's why I said we got the point across so we can close that conversation.
Right. We just differ as to who we give credit to.
Well, I mean, if you're going to continue it, then we're not closing it.
Well, no, I'm saying, what do you mean continue? We're not close. I've already said, if you want to believe or perceive or experience the world the way you want, who am I to say no? And I say it's this. I say it's this. That's it.
That's why I wanted to close the conversation, because we have reached an understanding.
Okay.
Well, then you know what to do. You say no further questions.
You don't tell what to do you? That's Slick bit. You don't tell Slick what to do, Arwin.
But we all know he does that.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate that big time. He just hasn't gotten the message yet.
What message is that?
You don't tell me what to do.
No, I didn't tell you. I predicted it.
Oh, funny.
You did it so many times. It's classic now.
Have you guys seen the new picture of the black hole? Very first.
Oh my God.
Gosh.
I haven't.
I can share my screen. You
Sure.
can see it.
Where was it taken from?
Very
No
nice
idea.
piece of CGI.
There it is. If my screen is being shared.
Wait.
Yeah, it was. Okay.
Yep. That blurry image. Black hole, right?
There's already memes about it. It looks like the Eye of Sauron.
It looks like a Halloween pumpkin to me, taken with a very badly focused lens from above.
Can you move your mouse
Could
off
be.
page?
They can take that picture from 55 million light years away, but they can't show us a curve.
There we go.
That's all I want to share. I'm converted to the ball Earth now. That picture.
Are they sure it is a black hole, or did they just happen to film an eclipse of a sun by a planet or something?
My warped mind, how you doing? Glad there was a gap.
Good, thanks, how are you?
Hello. You mute your watch page?
Can you hear me all right?
Can. We can also hear your watch page, though.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's all right. No worries. Good to have you.
I've got it running through the headphones, but they're slightly loud. How's that?
Very good.
Cool.
Have you noticed that NASA and the other agencies have been throwing all these things about space and just to give cover for the flat Earth awakening?
I didn't hear what you said. Could you repeat?
Yeah, I've been noticing that on my news feeds. There's a lot of things about asteroids or black holes or planets and anything that has to do with the ever-expanding universe, the vacuum of space, name it. just as cover to keep the Shapil blinded when someone they might know comes up to him and says, "Hey, did you know the Earth might be flat?"
Well, it's either one of two things, right? They're either increasing the propaganda because it's kind of like a collateral damage thing. Way too many people are talking about this subject and they don't like that, so they got to increase the opposite view. Either that, or you're just noticing it more because you're into this subject now. I mean, that's the way I see it. Like one, but I see it as a combination of both.
I just never seen it in this much in short time as I've seen in the last 2-3 years. I've kind of been watching it, and it was hardly there. All of a sudden, it's there almost every day.
Yes, totally
I
agree.
I know.
10 years
I do,
ago,
I
there was
agree.
barely any. I would be like looking at, oh, is there something new concerning space? And then, oh, yeah, people would have their attention, but they amped it up. A couple of more narratives, and then suddenly it just rolled out. There's like a standard daily NASA story somewhere, always.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of friends share stories about space lately.
Yeah, I had 2 people send me articles about it yesterday. Like, really? They see it, they read it, they send it, but they don't check it out.
I mean, look! All of a sudden now we got a moon movie, right? First movie, official movie about Neil Armstrong, first walk on the moon. And they got some other movie coming out. Natalie Portman. Like the movies are ramping up, the TV shows are ramping up. They know that there's something going on, and people are talking, and they don't like it.
Yeah, I remember hearing somewhere recently that Neil Armstrong's basically a recluse because he just can't handle talking to people because he's pretty much knows that everything that he's done is a lie. So I don't know how true that is, but it was interesting. Anyway, it was a good interview.
When you watch the interview of the 3 astronauts of their first official interview, as you can see it on YouTube, I've seen high school basketball players more excited about winning a game than 3 men who went to the moon and came back.
Yeah.
I've been more excited about winning a $5 scratch off than these guys look. So it's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean their body
Pretty
language, their whole body language says something else.
So I've been away for a while, and I came back on yesterday, and it was pretty heated yesterday, eh? Who were those 2 people on there yesterday arguing?
Tommy and Brenda.
Man, that was intense.
Was one of the subject matters
They seem to be
about
kind of a
acceleration?
duo. Like lately, they've been coming in together and getting arguments with each other. Like they're kind of like a duo now. It's cute.
Yeah, and then Brenda started playing the whole transgender card against Nathan. It was like, oh man, come on.
And did you guys notice that Tommy went right over to Jose's channel and continued to lose it there?
Immediately.
The guy's an idiot.
Yeah, Jose had to ask him, Tommy, come on, man, come on, man. Yeah, he just took that same snap and went over to Jose's channel and continued.
His whole brick theory, I was just like, oh, the guy's an idiot.
Was that the conversation regarding acceleration and you need a force?
Yeah, lifting the brick up to the top of the
Yeah,
building and accelerating.
I was busy in between that, so I was like kind of out of the loop. But as I was thinking about it after, I was like, it's so obvious. Like when you use energy to lift something, and you need to use energy to lift, it doesn't just lift up by its own. That's potential energy. And so when you drop it, it's displacing that air and falling, like, because it's denser than the air. So it's just so obvious.
And it's not going to reach its terminal velocity or
trying to
speed straight away. It's going to go from 0 to at certain speeds going to take time, which may look like acceleration, but it's just
where he was where he was having a problem was that why when you let it go it didn't go up, but what he didn't understand was he could have just took it up. He could have took it up higher if he needed it to go up. He could take it up as high as he could climb a ladder.
The other thing,
and that's what he was saying.
Bear with me a second, Slicks. My warped mind, you're making absolutely shed loads of noise.
Oh, sorry, man.
I caught that.
Is that better?
Yes, beautiful silence. Thank you.
I caught that show late last night when I heard Tommy talk about acceleration, and the way Nathan was saying, Tommy, I kept thinking the pinball wizard. You know, he's a pinball wizard. There has got to be a twist, a pinball wizard. Ever since I was a young boy, I played the silver ball. I was laughing so hard.
Sorry, guys. Can you actually hear me? Or
yeah, you sound great now. It's just there's a load of crackling and popping in background noise when you were.
Yeah, no, I just got a new mic set up and I had it on 48 volts, so it was picking up the smallest sounds. Sorry about that if I was blowing your drums.
That's all good.
So I had another question about the acceleration. So like he was saying that all of the acceleration requires force. So then what is the force of a helium balloon accelerating upwards? No?
That would be density, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly. It's the relative density explains so much more than they want to admit.
But they refuse to accept that there's possibility that density could be playing that force. Or the density of that particular object itself.
Being my first time on here, like I was wanting to see what you guys actually think. Like, what is your theory of the flat Earth? Like, you know, some people, it's just like a flat disk floating through space, or like a never-ending flat, you know, area that just isn't ending, like just a plane. Like, what are all your guys' theories?
I think the
space
flat
can't exist, so the flat just floating around in space is already dead.
That's society.
Yeah.
That's the flat Earth society.
Yeah, well, my personal opinion is I believe in like just a never-ending flat plane, and there's multiple planes of existence. But I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but yeah,
I think it's possible, but we don't really know. I think we just don't know.
Yeah.
That's more logical than a floating disk in space, though.
I mean, I've been like I'm into this, and then like I've also been researching a lot in. Yeah, people think it's a conspiracy, like the Mandela effect and alternate realities that are so close that morph together and things can change, and it kind of is just blending into things, and it's getting really interesting. Yeah, kind of a little bit off subject there, maybe, but
well, what I am noticing is that you have flat Earth going in a lot of different directions. Some people institutionalize it by coming up with stories and beliefs of what could possibly be or what is, like when people start talking of domes and infinite planes. See, these are all things that are basically just made up. Now, that's the institution of flat Earth. Then you have the experience of flat Earth, where you just experience the Earth as it presents itself. So all between those ranges, you'll find all kinds of things.
And I think that's the way we should experience it, is just the way it presents itself, instead of getting all into these theories about, you know, and it's not, I don't think it's wrong to say it's possible, but to be like, this is the way it is. And I know for sure, like I went to the ice wall on the, you know, the far side of the flat Earth, you know.
But it is intriguing that they militarized it and won't let people go and be free to explore. And that one guy got turned back twice and I think got arrested. I don't know, was he from Norway or Sweden? Then you got the Antarctica Treaty, and all started right around the space agency time. And Werner von Braun. I mean, it's just someone could write a real nice movie about this.
Yeah, they're definitely keeping things from us, but I think we really don't know because of. I think it's people, it's certain people. It's not like a bunch of people, a big conspiracy like people think. Because I mean, even I think there was this family member of an astronaut. He said he paid like $18 million to go into space. So I mean, how many people can actually verify reality? Because deGrasse Tyson said you can't see curvature at 128,000 feet. So it would only be people who can go into space. So, and who's gone into space? And it doesn't exist. That's what I'm saying.
They've gone to lower space.
I was talking to M. Scott Veach yesterday, and he told me that he experienced curvature at about 60,000 feet or so. And I said, well, wait a minute. Neil deGrasse Tyson said that you can experience that even at 128,000 feet. So he said Neil deGrasse Tyson is wrong. So then I said, well, wait a minute. You guys said your whole theory of your heliocentric model is based on people like Neil deGrasse Tyson stating data. So if Neil deGrasse Tyson can be wrong, then so can the rest of your body of science. So they all need to be questioned.
That guy contradicts himself so many times. Didn't he say that it was a pear shape at one stage? That's an idiot.
Yeah, he peer reviewed the Earth.
Yeah, but that pear-shaped thing was just blown all out of proportion.
Peer review, Owen? Peer review?
No, but the pear-shaped thing is based on certain weird elements about the globe of the heavens, about the celestial bodies, how they move, and that.
Too many people called him out on that. He had to retract that. You guys know that?
Really?
Yeah.
It almost makes me sad because there is like something to it within the, presupposing the Earth is a globe underneath the stars. Because apparently the globe of the heavens, if you assume that it is literally a globe, it doesn't really matter. How much it tilts, the axis of it, when you go north, eventually slows down. And you can kind of extrapolate from that data, if you presuppose the Earth is a globe underneath all those stars, that the Earth is just not exactly a sphere, but slightly more steep at the north because the stars rotate slower. And that is how they probably came to the the concept that the Earth is pear-shaped. We even talked about that on the debates a while back. It's very funny how that's.
I'm pretty sure I saw an interview where he had to kind of take that back, like, oh, it wasn't exactly pear-shaped, but
I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I have something to say about the shape of the Earth, and then I gotta head out. But let's give him, the benefit of the doubt with the 128,000 feet. It still presents itself as flat. But the thing you cannot escape is the fact that the horizon will drop. And I saw some models. They said that some guy said that even on a flat surface, it's going to drop a little bit. But they say that at 30,000 feet or 35, it drops 3 degrees. So that would mean that 128,000 feet, it would drop 10 to 12 degrees. And you have these independent balloon, people who put balloons up. I think it's 121,000 feet. And I would like someone to try to see if that shows a 10 to 12 degree drop in the horizon. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. But that's, anyway, I got to go. See you guys.
Damn, man.
See you later, Eric.
See you later.
One theory that I've been thinking about, and it might sound a little bit weird, but it kind of would tie in with the flat Earth, is a recent theory I heard about the holographic universe. And if it is holographic and we are in a simulation, like if you do basic animations, you only render what you see. Say if you're in like a real world video game, you wouldn't live render the whole game, you'd only render what you can see. So if we were in a holographic world, you would only render what you could see. So things that disappear at the horizon might be going out of the render. You go and, put your telescope in and you bring them back into view, because you're actually accessing that part of the holographic world and then bringing it back into the render. Just a hypothesis, but it was just quite interesting when I started reading it.
Hold on, Owen, hold on. So there's a saying, if a tree falls in the wood, does it make a sound? Well, the answer to that question is, there is no tree.
Yeah. I wasn't saying I believe that. It was just something I heard, and it kind of just like, oh, it was interesting.
Well, I personally entertain it slightly differently, and I say that the Earth, this realm, is simulatory in nature, but it is not a simulation, because it can be turned off externally, in my opinion. It is a ground that has come to being through a very simulatory nature, which the creation is part of. But it is not a simulation. It is not like fake, not just made into our minds to oppose some alternative reality, which, yeah, a computer matrix would be. So just because it has simulation-alike elements to it doesn't mean that it is a literal simulation in the literal sense.
Yeah, but it could be.
You never know. I mean, it's being raised as like it's actually being hypothesized and brought through as a real thing by many scientists nowadays. It's not just a fringe thing. So, you know, I just thought when I was reading it, you could kind of apply it if you think about it.
Hey, Nathan, there's an article on the 7th of April, and it talks about Israel's Bereshet spacecraft as it went around the moon. And it's a funny thing when you look at the symbol for the Israeli space entity. It's got that chevron of NASA, and it's I didn't even know Israel had money to spare.
Yeah, it's like a vector symbol.
Aren't they starting a whole space agency? I heard.
Well, this is the whole thing. The whole newspaper and magazines and internet digital press is all about space now. It's like they're dying to. Everyone's going to the moon, even countries that don't need to, just so they could keep telling us that the lie is still alive. Because I think shows like this and people asking sincere questions is just waking everybody up.
Yeah, that could be it. That orbiter that went to the moon, it was not from a space station. It was from a private company. They were trying to complete a challenge, the X Prize, $30 million. I don't know if you've heard of this one.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so it was Israelis, yes, but they were private. They weren't Israeli government.
If they really wanted to go to space, like, it would be cheaper to build a space elevator, and then wouldn't it be cheaper to do that rather than send these rockets out all the time? I don't know.
No.
No? Okay.
You think building an elevator to space is cheaper?
There is no space. What are you talking about?
There
is no space to go to, elevator or rocket. There is no space.
If it were real.
If it were real, but it isn't, so there is no space to go to. Shout out to Eric. Hey, Eric.
Come on, we can build a tower to heaven, just like the South Park episode.
Yeah, well,
the theory that they were going to build a space elevator wasn't to actually like build a building all the way up to space. It somehow there would be like I don't know how they do it, but I'm a flat earther, but yeah, I don't believe in it. But if they did, it would kind of be spinning out and attached by wires. You know what I mean? If it makes sense.
Oh yeah, I've seen it before. It's conceptualized, but it's not planned. But yeah, it's supposed to reach out far enough to where the centrifugal force would be pulling it more so than gravity. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the housekeeping questions is, can you have gas pressure without a container? And we know the answer is no. So there's no space. And what I'm saying is all these headlines are trying to debunk that housekeeping question because they know they've been cut.
Because that question is very dangerous for their model.
Yes.
I agree. It's probably one of the best arguments against the globe. Because we all know that that's not possible, but somehow people still believe that that's possible.
It's the best way to enter a conversation with somebody is when they bring it up. And then you say, there's no such thing as space. And then they say, how can you say that with all the proofs? And then you say, well, answer me this. Can you have gas pressure without a container? And their eyes, like they're deer in the headlights, because they know you can't.
Well, the other good one is when you like they go, oh look at this footage of space. It's like, well, hang on, who's taking a photo of the Hubble space station? Who's standing out there taking a photo of that? It's CGI. No, it's not CGI. It's like.
Chat to Cynical Skeptic for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed for your support.
There you go. Good on you. No, but yeah, that Hubble, they went up and they repaired it, so they certainly would have had an opportunity if that's real.
No, I mean when they do all these like flybys and like planets, and they have like the satellite flying through space, and they you know, people don't think it's CGI. And, yeah, I don't know.
How can they repair anything if there's no space?
Have you guys been onto a channel called Cody's Lab?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, he does a really good experiment where he makes a vacuum chamber and he runs a fan in there and he like holds everything in front of it, and the vacuum pressure pretty much just has no force. I was like, well, yeah, doesn't that just show that? Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Well, there's no air in a vacuum, and fans work by blowing air, so makes sense.
A vacuum technically doesn't have any force. It's the air pressure that exerts the force that surrounds it to fill it up.
So these jets that they have on all the things out in space pretty much wouldn't work.
There are no jets in space. There is no space.
Well, they got that.
I know. I'm just saying it for the Globers that are listening. Just you know.
No, that is a good question.
Why don't the astronauts go train in that humongous vacuum chamber that NASA has with 8-foot walls with rebar? Why don't they go train there instead of a pool?
Because their suits weren't designed to withstand actual vacuum. They were built to withstand water pressure.
Right, and then you saw that one video of the astronauts.
They're wearing
That's not the reason. That's not the reason. The reason they don't practice in a
wearing.
vacuum is because they're not going to be visiting a vacuum, because there is no vacuum of space. So there's no necessity to practice or train in any vacuum if they're not going to be traveling to any vacuum, because there isn't one.
And then that one astronaut who you see on YouTube, he said his saliva in his mouth was bubbling. He was burning up. They had to get him out of it when they first started it.
Sounds like a real fuss up. You know, fun fact, if you travel down in the ocean just only 10 meters, you're already dealing with the same pressure difference as you would from the inside the ISS and the outside the ISS.
What do you mean?
So there's
have
no,
you been there?
no impossible
Sorry,
vacuum
hold on.
pressure out there.
Sorry, have you been to the ISS? Have you been?
No, I understand how pressure works, Mr. Nathan. So
sorry, you haven't been there. So how the hell would you know
difference.
how the hell would you know what the pressure on a light in the sky does? Yeah, and you're claiming there's a difference between it and the vacuum of space that doesn't exist. So there is no vacuum of space with a tin can with a pressure differential. There is no vacuum of space. None. It's nonsense. If there was, the gas that we're all enjoying right now, going in and out of our lungs, would dissipate into that vacuum.
Yeah, if there was, the pressure, just like Arwin had just said, would be due to the pressure dissipating, as you had just said, and that would be 14 psi. It's not very much.
Sorry, who cares? What's your point?
The only reason I brought up the vacuum of space, I'm sorry I brought it up, was just so that people that are listening realize that in the globe and people that believe in space, you pretty much none of this stuff would work. Like it's all bullshit.
But that's part of the con. Getting us as flat earthers to beg the question for them and say, if there was a vacuum of space, then rockets wouldn't work in it. well, we're automatically pre-programming both ourselves and the audience with the notion that there's a vacuum of space. But whether or not rockets work in them, well, that's why they're quite content to let us all debunk the ISS indefinitely. Yeah, go ahead, because we're all arguing whilst begging the question that space is real. Well, space is not real. There is no ISS in space. There's no Mars in space. There's no sun in space. It's not a vacuum. Where they claim all this crap that they claim happens, is nonsense. The lights in the sky, including the ISS, are just that. If you're to assert that there's pressure differentials between some light in the sky and the outside vacuum, well, that's just a nonsense story you're attributing to a light you see in the sky. Same as if you claim that Mars is terra firma that you can drive around on. Nonsense. Just a light in the sky. There's no vacuum that it's existing in for you to claim you're travelling through.
So with the sun, do you think that the sun is an artificial sun, or it's a real sun that's close in, or?
Well, first I want to make sure, what are we going to describe the things that are outside of Earth, whether it's a dome or what people say it's outer space? What would we call that? We're not going to call it space.
Sky. It's the sky.
The sky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, where are we looking when we talk about those things? If we're not looking at CGI rendered images on a TV screen, what are we actually looking at when we talk about the ISS? We're looking up in the sky, aren't we? At a light. That's what's actually occurring. So we're not up in a tin. My point being, just to round out this point, just want to round out this point. The point being the point being, we are not in a tin can experiencing a differential between us and a vacuum. That is fantasy. That is you visualizing being in Narnia and experiencing the snow and a lion that doesn't exist. It's fiction. You can't experience those things. You can describe them, but what you're actually experiencing from the ground is the sky, which is claimed by globeheads who think they live on a sphere to be a vacuum. Well, it's not, because the gas would fill that space pretty instantaneously.
So do you think it's a dome then?
I've no idea. I don't know what the sky is. I don't know what the sun is. I don't know what the moon is. I don't know what the stars are. I have no idea.
Did you guys see the link that I put in the chat on YouTube before? It's I do a lot of video editing, and there's a website I go to get stock images called Vexels, and they had a little video there of an artificial sun getting launched into space. I thought it was quite interesting. I did put it on there. I don't know if you guys saw it, but yeah, I thought it was quite interesting.
I can't see it. If you want to stick it in the chat now, it'll go out to the live audience and I'll approve it. But I can't see a link to approve.
Hang on.
Yeah, unless you have a wrench. If you post
no,
links,
I can approve
it.
I can just approve it, so it'll come up on my iPad once he spams the link, and I'll just click approve on it, and it'll go out to the audience.
Wasn't there
I'll put it back up on there now.
Cool.
Wasn't there an article about China putting a light in the sky over a city?
Yeah, I just put the link up on the chat on YouTube.
Okay, so with that, I will say, if you're watching this on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. However, if you're watching this on the Nathan Oakley live stream, then unfortunately this is where we bid you farewell. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you tuning in to the live stream, and of course a massive thank you to all of today's debating panel. If you need to keep yourself occupied after this live stream is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!